Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulil kareem. Thank you. I think must commend Jamaat Islami and Saif for initially contacting me and compelling me to join. This is almost midnight in Malaysia, and I think in the presence of John and Ibrahim and Anas, and Mushahid, and all friends. I mean, it's lovely to see you. Unfortunately, with all these restrictions, we are not able to travel. So it's a commendable effort. The Muslim world, to be precise, and the West. We will be discussing this for centuries. And I think Edward Said has, in his response to Huntington, has encapsulated the entire debate as a clash of ignorance, actually, because you can see a lot of discussions not based on understanding and appreciation of the strength and the traditions, but so much enmity due to ignorance. So I think the effort to inculcate reason and understanding and creative thinking is, of course, commendable. Now, we also have, and I think was rightly said by Asif just now, that a large number of Muslim communities in Europe, in the States, and countries, Muslim countries or Muslim societies in the West. So I think the challenge remains. Unfortunately, I get rather not tired, but having to debate the issue of Islam in the West. John, remember when I was in DC, I mean, this is one of the most popular subject, Islam and democracy, with this, some underlying assumption that there is incompatibility between Islam and democracy or Islam and the West. But unfortunately, the matter has not been somewhat resolved. I mean, Huntington is, of course, an extreme exception, but with Trump and Trumpism, you have sense, you see this obsessive revival of this anti-Islamic and Islamophobia. So that's one part which I think we should recognize. The white supremacists on the surface, and also the insidious attempt through the academia, which I think John is an expert in the subject, but he's also a victim of the efforts to undermine and attack and demonize any scholar deemed to be rather sympathetic or trying to give an objective assessment of Islam without prejudice. So although we have thought that Edward Said's effort in 1971 may be, half a century old, but some of his arguments is still compelling and deemed to be relevant because of the failure to appreciate the other, which means the Muslims. Now, I would cut short on the matter of the West. Let me address, which is probably more my passion, about Muslim societies. Now, this is where, other than looking at the inherent prejudices of the West, and of course not all, I've made many friends in the West, political leaders and academicians who are reasonably objective, sympathetic, and not prejudiced against Islam. So I wouldn't approve of this overgeneralization or so-called Western attitude, although the political leadership are probably the worst of the component of this anti-Islamic demagoguery. I would like to confine now to the issue within Muslim societies. Sheikh 𝗔H 𝗔𝗿 𝗵𝗶𝗺, for example, talks about fiqh for Muslim minorities. Okay, but essentially in the West. But I would like to address the issue because we have to deal, firstly, the issue of legitimacy when Muslim societies support or endorse or are governed by leadership that lacks legitimacy, it is also a major problem. Call it democracy or mushawara or shura, whatever, but legitimacy means they are accountable and they represent the conscience, aspirations of the majority of their people, which is unfortunately not the case in most Muslim countries. Now, due to that, there is no democratic accountability. Ibrahim may not like me because this term is popularized by Fukuyama, but the new Fukuyama, not the old Fukuyama. So, in the sense that if you represent the conscience of the majority, then you are accountable in terms of the rule of law, good governance, ridding the country of endemic corruption, grinding poverty, gross inequality. You can continue to harp against the failures or ills of the Western societies that we read much earlier in the writings of many of the earlier leaders about the rotten Oswald Spengler and pessimism. But that does not necessarily explain why we have observed the utter weakness and failures of Muslim societies. So I think as a Muslim in a Muslim majority country, I take this as a major challenge, that the internal dynamics within Muslim societies, a government or leadership that must be legitimate, that respect the rule of law, that will also understand the meaning of good governance, that rid the country of rampant corruption and grinding poverty. In a country where leaders enrich themselves, there is embarrassment of riches, clear and embarrassing. Okay, so these are issues that will by itself allow us to engage more effectively with the West. How we treat our non-Muslim minorities in Muslim countries. Malaysia, of course, is a multiracial, multi-religious country, Muslim majority. We have Hindus, Christians, Buddhists, enemies, and how we treat would give us that moral high ground to demand respect, honor, and dignity for Muslims in the West. Gender equality, which we have been harping about a lot, but then we have an area which we are unfortunately lagging behind. No countries in this century get with great pride explaining the success of because we do recognize the right of women, diverse. I mean, to me, it's a major embarrassment when basic rights like this cannot be assured or guaranteed to our own citizens. Now, having said that, we need to go beyond that, because there are areas where the West has an upper hand. Digitalization, technology, economic advancement, the sophistication that is there, which we must share. So the issue of Muslim world and the West should not be seen purely in terms of juxtaposition or contradictions, but there are areas where we reassert our identity. We have our faith, we have our akhlaq and moral values, and that is not something that we can easily or need to concede, because that's our identity, that's our basic right. But at the same time, I think we have to acknowledge the fact that this engagement, this new convivencia of a sort, must happen. And Muslim societies must also look at this in a more positive sense. I know it's not easy Because the moment things are a bit settled, then you have another attack on the Gaza. And of course, this is very emotive. And you can see the debates, although I do recognize, John can correct me if I'm wrong here, that the debate within the mainstream media is something very more reassuring in that sense, because you have an opportunity or a space which was absent in the last decade. And suddenly you have a preparedness to listen to the other view. In fact, in many of these statements, shows a lot of empathy and sympathy. Now, so there is also a changing trend, but the continued impunity by Netanyahu Zionist government is of course something that would hurt the feelings of just too many Muslims, and the masses sometimes wouldn't take it in a more calculated, sophisticated, or rational sense. And we have a problem there. The more extreme you sound, the more radical you sound, the more popular you become. Whether it is grounded on facts or traditions of the Quran or the Hadith is a non-issue. So this is, of course, a major problem, because the moment you harp on gross or continue this unbridled attacks and oppression of Muslims, then you will invite a more radical reaction. And we have to grapple with this problem. I mean, I, for example, because of what I say now in a plural society, multi society, I become the liberal plural Anwar, you see, which of course then is being attacked by the more extreme itijahat or trends within the Muslim society. But notwithstanding that, I think we have a role to play. The dialogue must continue. The engagement must be more active, more grounded, but at the same time, like the model and the character of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is uswatun hasanah. You cannot engage effectively. You cannot propound to assert a moral high ground without a showcase of character and governance in your own societies. Because of the great scholars with me, including my Guruji John Esposito, I will end at this. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.